The lost tribes of Israel, where are they? And in current situation with the war ongoing, we think a lot in Christians here in America, who are the Jews really? And so imagine 10 entire tribes of Israel vanishing from history, and suddenly everyone talks about only the Jews. And the modern state of Israel, founded in 1984, is that really the full biblical 12 tribe nation many American evangelicals believe it is? Or have we made some mistake? Welcome to Big Tree Tales, where we discuss the Bible, politics, and society. And today we're diving into one of the most fascinating and misunderstood topics in Scripture, the lost tribes of Israel. So many Bible-believing Christians in the US are convinced that today's Israel is the complete fulfillment of God's promises to all the 12 tribes. So, but is that accurate? And why do we always exclusively call them Jews? Well, stay with me until the end, because I'm going to show you why any true gathering of Israel can only happen under the Messiah, Jesus, and what the Apostle Paul clearly says about it. This will change your view on maybe current politics, end time view. So let's open the Bible. So part one, so we go this, the biblical history about the division and the exile. Oh, let's start with the history first. After King Solomon died, the United Kingdom of Israel at the time split into two. The northern kingdom of Israel and the 10 tribes, with the 10 tribes, and the southern kingdom, which was called Judah. So you had already, after a very brief time, you had the first split. And the northern kingdom quickly fell into idolatry, and God did not let that happen without consequence. And in 722 BC, the judgment came, as we read in 2 Kings, which I read to you, 17. In the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria captured Samaria and deported Israel to Assyria. He settled them in Hala, in Goshen, and the river Habor, and in the towns of the Medes. All this took place because the Israelites have sinned against the Lord their God. So many from the 10 tribes fled south during that time and stayed in the land of Judah. But what really happened to them? Were the most of them lost forever? We're about to find out, so stick around. So were the tribes really lost? And maybe first we need to say the Bible tells us no. God never loses his people, right? So the term lost tribe is actually misleading. Scripture shows us that God never really lost track of them. When the exiles returned from Babylon, they offered 12 male goats, one for each of the tribes of Israel, and a sin offering for all of Israel, as we can read in Ezra. So they had, even the ones returning, they had this notion, we are a 12 tribe nation. We are the 12 tribes, even though many of them stayed back in Babylon or Assyria, and then they didn't want to come back to the so-called new freedom. They rather stayed where it was safe and maybe financially most stable, because it was no longer a prison. So their exile has turned into an accommodation which they liked. So only a few, actually, the pioneers, they went out and they were called to build this new Jerusalem, and it was a brave step. So Paul speaks about this in Acts 26, where he says we are the 12 tribes, and James said it, like, to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations. So even the prophetess Anna, which you remember was the prophetess which saw Jesus as a baby in the temple, she was called from a lost tribe of Asher. So And in the end times, so Revelation 7, 4-8 lists 12,000 sealed from each of the 12 tribes, including Reuben, Asher, Naphtali, and all the rest. So they are not lost. So we can say that God never loses his people. But the big difference is why Jews? Why do we think it's the same as Israel? So after the Assyrian exile, only people from the southern kingdom, mainly Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, returned from Babylon. The 12 northern tribes remained scattered, and the return list of Ezra in Ezra 2 shows almost exclusively Judean names. So this is exactly where the term Jews come from right now. The modern state of Israel, founded in 1984, is then a secular nation state made out of descendants from the Judean line and plus converts from other nations when they started. So this is why we call them today Jews, because they come from the tribe of Judah, and meaning all the other 11 tribes, more or less, are not really mentioned. And that's the first thing we need to understand. So they are, how you counted, 10 or 11 tribes still missing. So the modern Israel is not identical with the 12 tribe nation. And many Americans, evangelicals, make this serious mistake. But so where could they be? And I want to point out 4 possible solutions for where these tribes are, maybe even today. So there are concrete theories, and theory number 1 is probably, British Israelism, so Anglo-Israelism. That is a popular thesis which came in the 19th and 20th century, especially in Britain and the United States. It claimed 10 tribes migrated as others, like for example Scythians or Cimmerians or Goths, into Western Europe. And Europe said to be Ephraim, and the United States is said to be Manasseh. So many American Christians once believed that. Historians consider that. I mean, when you ask historians, they don't know. You can look at the DNA, but so that is it's not really proved, and it's not scripturally based, but it's possible. Yes, it's possible that some of them are here in America and in Europe. Then theory number 2, quite interesting, the Pashtuns, and that is more than towards the east of Israel, like so Afghanistan or Pakistan. So certain Pashtun tribes, specifically those called Yusufasi, the sons of Joseph. They preserve ancient traditions, and they have their ancestors, they say they come from Israel. So they practice circumcision on the 8th day, have Sabbath like customs, and they name themselves after certain people in Israel. So you find these names there. Some medieval chronicles make connections. Genetics show some occasional Semitic traits and traces mixed in the local people. So it's possible. Number 2, Pashtuns could be, that could well be. Theory number 3, it becomes more probable. All right, so the Lemba in South Africa and Zimbabwe. So these people have a clear oral history. Their ancestors were white Jews from the north, and they came by ship seeking gold. They practiced circumcision, kosher law, and used the Star of David. The genetic studies also reveal, of course, they carry a certain Israelic gene or genome, and so some priestly people, there were discovered that they have actually in their DNA a gene of Semitic descendants. So it's possible. Last theory, number 4, in India. So the Bnei Menashe, they means sons of Manasseh. Okay, so more than 10,000 people there claim they are direct descendants from the tribe of Manasseh. They sing songs about fleeing from Assyria, keep the Sabbath, biblical feasts, and even have their own Torah scrolls. After investigation, the Jewish rabbis recognize thousands of them, and many have already immigrated to Israel. This is the only group that have returned in significant numbers. So, conclusion of these 4 theories, there are more, yes, but so it's pretty, they are fascinating because we think, where are they? Because people do not just disappear. Even if you are lost, so to speak, you marry, you have children, your children have children, and eventually you are somewhere, right? So they have not been all killed. So it's possible and very, very likely that there are many Jewish descendants all over the world, and there could be even in Iran. I'm not saying that, but it could be in Iran, could be a lot of Jews there, as well as we see here in Pakistan or Afghanistan. So God knows his people, and God even has a different view on that. And we can read this in the New Testament. Because from all these fascinating things, let's have one thing clear. It's not genetics, but heart condition that determines what the New Testament is telling us about who's a real Jew. So the Apostle Paul himself, from the tribe of Benjamin, draws a sharp line in the sand. And he's saying in Romans 9, verse 6 to 8, not all our descendants from Israel are Israel. Oh, it's not the children of the flesh who are the children of God, but the children of the promise. So it's never primarily about DNA, bloodline, but about the heart attitude and the faith in the Messiah, Jesus. When God gathers the Jews, or the remnant of the tribes, he brings them in not because of their DNA matches whatever, but their heart condition matches that what is required as people of faith. And that is the real conclusion of that. So we will not lose them. Revelation is talking about that God will bring in the remnants and those who has turned around and came to follow Jesus the Messiah, and he will not lose any single one of them. So maybe you pray with me that Jesus the Messiah is actually turning the hearts and minds of the current state and Jews in Israel, that they might recognize Jesus as the Messiah, because they don't think Jesus is the Messiah. They're waiting for someone else. So if this video has helped you to understand that more, I would like if you give me a subscribe or thumbs up. As always, thank you for watching. Bye.